And hello and welcome to No Story Stagnates with me, Ernie Boxall. And today it's my pleasure to introduce my second guest from Australia, Misty Henkel. Misty,
Hi.
can you tell everyone who you are, where you are, and what it is you do?
Okay, so I am Misty Henkel. I'm an international sales trainer and I live in Australia. So I've just recently moved from Canberra to Chinchilla in Queensland. And Chinchilla is approximately 4 hours west of Brisbane. So it's very dry out here.
Yeah.
A bit warmer than Canberra, but it's dry and a similar temperature to Canberra, just sort of maybe 8 degrees warmer. And yeah. So, and it's way cheaper to live here than Canberra now. Canberra's over $1 million to live in a house. Here is 257,000 people in town. It's very exciting.
Great.
So I am an international sales trainer, which basically means that I run sales classes for people all over the world. Because of COVID and because we're online, now because I run them online, I get to run them and help people all over the world, which apparently has dubbed me now the international sales trainer.
Right.
So that's what I do.
Thank you, Misty. And we'll move on to the first question that I ask all of my guests. Misty Henkel, do you know how your mother and father met for the first time?
I do actually, and I've collected more and more of the story just in the last year. So my parents met in Fiji. My my mum was from a small country town in New South Wales called Burke. My grandfather's Scottish. He ended up in Burke purely by accident. He thought he was in Western Australia, but he wasn't even across the state.
No.
So she grew up in Burke, and mostly until she was about, probably before 12, though. My grandfather was a builder, so he built houses.
Right.
And he started to work a bit internationally. So they lived in Tonga for a while and they ended up at Fiji by the time my mum was 12. And my dad, his dad was from New Zealand, but his mum was from Queensland. And I actually don't know the time frame of how long they'd been in Fiji for, but my dad's dad, so my other grandfather, he was a builder too, but he built quarries.
Right.
So they were over in Fiji. And so my mom's dad had to go to the quarry to get the building supplies to build the houses, right? And that's how he ran into my dad's dad.
Right.
And so they got to talking and discovered that they had kids about the same age. Now, my dad, he must have been there from young because from the age of 7, my dad went to boarding school in Queensland from the age of 7 by himself on a plane sent from Fiji across to Queensland. And so he must have been there for a good 5 years. And then, so because he was at boarding school, my two grandfathers, they decided that when his kids were back in Fiji for the holidays, that they should all get to meet. Turns out they lived at opposite ends of the same street and in Lautoka. So if anyone knows Fiji, and probably, I don't know if you're looking at my mirror image, but Fiji is like this, right? And Suva's down the bottom here. And when you go on holidays in Fiji, everybody goes here. Yeah. But Lautoka sits up the top other corner, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at a map, it's like the top. It's like where New York is, right? But to Fiji. And so that's where they were, opposite ends of a very long street, and that's where they were. So my mum was 12. So both my parents were 12. Apparently they went over for a lunchtime barbecue. It was the first time they met, and my aunt, so my mum's little sister, went off to play with my dad's little brother and sister, and mum sat down. They played table tennis, and mum sat down, and my dad went up and gave her a horse bite right on the leg. You know, those hard hits, horse bite. He said, "Do you know what a horse bite is?" And she's like, "No." He's smacked. Love at first hit, apparently. So, so they've known each other since they were 12. My mum actually became best friends with his sister. Yeah. And they went to nursing school together. And then sort of from the age of 18, my aunt, so my dad's sister, said that, Greg stole your mother from me. Yeah. But my mum was like the only girl who was allowed to write to one of the boys at boarding school because they were like, because they'd grown up for so long. School had classed it was like your brother because the family friend had been around forever. And then when they were old enough to leave home, my dad was over in Queensland. He was going to uni, and then he had an accident one day. He was going to uni. He was going to be a marine biologist, and a mate of his was at the pub, got drunk one night, and threw a glass down, got into a fight, threw a glass down, and a piece of glass sprung back and hit my dad in the eye. Well, he went blind in his left eye, and marine biology was off the cards. Apparently, you need both eyes when you see sharks coming. So anyhow, that was off the cards, and so that was done. So my dad decided that because he was frustrated with his parents, he decided that he would become a fruit picker. And so in his effort from leaving Queensland, he was heading down through New South Wales down to sort of the Victoria area to go cherry picking and fruit picking. And because he actually wanted to be a jackaroo, so basically a cowboy. He wanted to round up horses because one set of holidays he went home because work paid for him for the ticket for him to go back home to Fiji. The other holidays he went to cousins' place because his parents wouldn't pay for them. So he went and stayed with cousins, and they had a farm. So he was going to, be a cowboy, basically, round up cows. So he got cranky with his parents because they said he couldn't do that. So he decided to go cherry picking. On his way through to Victoria, he stopped in Canberra, which is where my mum was living at the time, going to nursing school. And my grandparents had moved there, and Granddad was building there in Canberra. And Dad stopped to say hi. And Granddad said, "What are your plans?" Because if you plan on continuing to go out with my daughter and marrying her, then cherry picking isn't really on the cards for you. So he basically stopped him and said, "Here's what I'll do. You stop in Canberra and you will I'll give you a job as a labourer on the building site that I'm working on until you can come up with something better to do." Kind of where he stayed. So he started labouring, so he did that, and then he moved into, he went back to uni, worked in public service as an architectural draftsman doing surveying, went to uni, completed that. So that was in his 30s. And then and he built roads. So my dad built roads right up until,
great story, Misty. And I have interviewed two other Mistys, and I asked them where their name came from. So the name Misty.
The Clint Eastwood movie, Play Misty for me. Dad saw the movie. He thought the name was great. The idea was great. So he just went with it. So Clint Eastwood, it's classic.
Magic.
It becomes easy to say my name because I say it's Misty, like the movie. Play Misty for me. And then everyone goes, I have no idea. Oh.
Great story, Misty. Now,
how did the others get theirs?
I think that there's 2 or 3 versions. I haven't really looked at them in a long time, so I'd have to go back.
Oh, righto.
But I mean, my version is my dad was in the war, Second World War, but he was an athlete. Primarily, he was a boxer. And the battalion loved its boxers. So they looked after him, although it was in the war, and he never drank. 2 years after the war, he went to meet a pal. They went into the pub. He had 3 pints, and it went to his head. So he thought he'd go outside for some fresh air. On his way out the door, he tripped and knocked a woman over. My mum. Now, and I say to people, and you must realise this from the story, if he'd have only had 2 pints, or if he'd gone to the toilet instead of out the door, I wouldn't be here.
Well, my parents, they could have nearly not met because Granddad wanted that job, but he didn't get it. He actually got one in the builder, my mum's dad. He got a job in Papua New Guinea. So here's a funny story. I only just had this on recently. So he got a job in Papua New Guinea first, and he couldn't wait for the other one, so that he left. Right. And he'd been there 2 weeks. And he went into a grocery store, and this is a Scottish lad, very proper, right? And so you're looking in the 60s, Mum was built 54, so it's in the 60s, right? And Granddad went into a store, it's the late 60s, to buy something, and the local women were there without tops on.
Yeah.
And he's just gone, yeah, I'm not bringing my girls or my wife across here.
No.
So he quit his job on the spot, called my nan, who was at the airport about to fly them over, and he said, don't get on the plane because I'm coming back. This is not for us. And they'd come from Tonga, where they'd been to the islands, and it was islands you could walk around at night, and they were fully dressed. Whereas they are not fully dressed, and you couldn't walk around at night because it was quite dangerous. And even now it's apparently pretty dangerous. And so he said, don't leave the airport. And then he got on a plane, went back. And as he was flying across, the Fijian job come in, and then basically he just went there, you know.
Right.
So
there you go.
So
Misty, from the ages 1 to 10, one story, good or bad, which made such an impression on you that you remember it straight away. It's the first story that comes to mind, and perhaps a lesson you learned from it.
Movies. My dad loved movies.
Right.
Loved cartoon movies. My mum hated them. So my mum would watch other movies, but my dad loved cartoon movies. So Disney movies and things like that. So he would, when they were on, he would always find time to sit down with us, and we would sit and watch a movie. Later, he didn't like movies so much at the movies, but he would always sit in the lounge, and it never really changed. And so when he found a movie that he really liked, if I was watching it later on, and Mum was saying, I told her to put the garbage out, Dad's like, yeah, but she's watching a movie. Of course, I was watching one of Mum's sort of movies, it'd be completely different. But but I have taken that. So I sit with my boys a lot to watch movies. Simon, my husband, he doesn't like it, but the boys recall that. Like, they'll say, well, Mum's the one that will take us to the movies. Yeah. But Dad isn't, you know. So we definitely hold our different spots. So I've taken what Dad gave me, and I've taken across the boys, and it's very different to my mum and Simon.
That's great. So now, Misty, school. You would have started school at that period, yeah?
Yeah,
what were you like at school?
Sorry?
What were you like at school? Did you enjoy school?
Quiet. I mean, I liked school because I liked learning. I desperately wanted friends. I was quiet. I collected a couple of friends, but I was not really comfortable most of the time. I didn't get my first friend until I was 7.5.
Right.
So I'd been going for 2.5 years. Since I was 4, 3.5 years.
Yeah.
I got my first friend when I was 7. What I did notice, though, is shy people get friends, but quiet people don't.
Right.
And there's a difference between shy and quiet. There was nothing shy about me.
No.
I was just quiet. I just I couldn't speak. And so shy people would start, and everybody wanted to be their friend. But because I was quiet, I could sort of blend in, and people didn't notice whether I was there or not. Mind you, I took that all the way through until the end of year 12. So right through until I was 18. For year 11 and year 12, I had to have completed year 12, but not got any particular mark to get into the fashion course I wanted to do. I literally went to school and slept. If I turned up to class, and because I was so quiet, nobody noticed whether I was there or not. I got the worst score of even the dumbest person at school for my year grade, and nobody noticed. They didn't notice. They didn't hand in homework. They didn't notice if I was there or not there. I learned to disappear if I wanted to. But I learned how not to. I could be noisy if I wanted to too. So I learned a couple of skills.
We're coming now into the years. I think teenage years are important. So I'll break it down 11 to 15. A story and a memory from 11 to 15.
Not really. I moved from Canberra to Newcastle.
Right.
I suppose in a way I was in the school band. I actually really liked being in school bands. That was when I was 13. So I really liked that. So I had a nice little community there when we moved to Newcastle, which I was excited about the move. New place, new people.
Yeah.
The school band wasn't the same. So it turned out the friend database wasn't the same as what I finally built in the other place.
Right.
But we got to go to the beach. We had ice cream all the time. Had dogs. So it wasn't too bad. I did lose my friends, but then I've still got some that I've kept from all the way back then. So I had learned how to hold on to
Right.
the few that I had, and I can still catch up with them now, like as if it was
So
yesterday.
at that, in that school, how did you, what's the word I'm looking for? How did you gel with the teachers?
I'm a good person.
Right.
I just follow the instructions.
Okay.
So when I participated, I just followed the instructions. So I'd
Right.
always turn up on time. I would hand in homework. I wouldn't be yelled at. But, you know, I learned later that if I was quiet, I could be quiet. And I was clever. So
Yeah.
I could go home, do the work. That's the benefit of really not having any friends. You read a lot. I did a lot of crafts. So I knitted and crocheted. And you go home, you just do your homework and you read.
Right.
So, you know, there was benefit. So I fitted in. Teachers liked me.
Yeah. So,
because I was no trouble. But they didn't teach me anything because I was no trouble. So they kind of just let me be average.
Yeah. Did you take part in the school sports?
Sport, not so much. No.
Okay.
I wanted to, but I wasn't confident enough
Right.
to try it. So that wasn't really my. Although we had on a Wednesday afternoon, we had sport. So everyone across the board in high school took the afternoon off from lunch and went to a particular school sport. And for a while, I picked surfing. Absolutely rubbish at it.
Yeah.
I had to carry a surfboard many kilometres from school all the way up. And but I bought myself a wetsuit. I looked cool. I'd rock up. I had no idea what I was doing. Really old style. It was like it was almost like a Malibu. Like it was like an old Mount type, you know. And the guys would look at me and laugh. And they just let me do my thing. But
great.
But you know, they've gone, hey, at least she comes out. Like,
that's
you know,
it.
what else is doing that? So, but I was rubbish. I didn't go water deep with the nymphs because, well, frankly, it hurt when you fell off, like a lot, and it was scary. And waves are. When you're standing on a board, if you can even get to that point, and then you're on a wave, like you think you're, but then a wave puts you that much higher, and
wave goes
like,
higher and higher. Yeah,
that's a long fall. I'm not going there.
So when we talk about 16 to 20, we're talking about qualifications now, aren't we?
Yes.
Again, a story and lessons from 16 to 20.
Yes, I decided my whole life I just wanted to be like my dad. I thought my dad was great, so I just wanted to be like my dad. So whatever he did, I was going to do. I remember my dad when I was younger, he was a barman. And he used to come home and tell these bar stories and fights and things like that. And I'm just going, well, I'm going to be a barmaid. So given that I didn't really speak to anyone, the moment I turned 18, I booked myself in to do a bar course. So that I was going to be a barmaid. And then all I had to do was go get a job. So I got a job at a bowling club. So basically, lads like you would go and play lawn bowls, and they'd all rock up and they'd buy, you know, the same drink. They'd all get the same drink. And my dad said, you have one task, and it's this. And I've taken this with me I was a barmaid for 10 years, and this is how I taught everybody who worked with me as well. Is you've got one task. Misty, your job is to say, hi, how are you going? What would you like to drink?
Right.
And at a bowling club, when you've got 50 blokes lined up who've just come in from playing bowls, and there's only one drink, it's called a Middy of Carlton. Hi, how are you going? What would you like to drink? Middy of Carlton. Hi, how are you going? What would you like to drink? Middy of Carlton. Hi, how are you going? What would you like to Missy, there's only one drink. Hi, how are you going? What would you like to drink? When I got confident that I could pour the drink and say that, then I learned to say, how's your bowls today? How are you going? Or is it raining out? And from there, I learned to speak to people. Now I'm very good at speaking, but 10 years, started working at different pubs and clubs, serving drinks. It's an amazing spot to learn how to speak. Now I'm one of, I can be quiet, but I'm one of the noisy ones, you know, because you have to learn to talk to them or they leave. If they leave, they go to some other pub, you don't get them back. So you got to learn.
Customer, was it college? Did you leave school at an early age, or was it college?
No, I should have left at 16, but I went through until 18, and then I went to not university, but it was like college, or technical college, and I was doing fashion. So it was a 2-year course on fashion. I was getting A's in the first year, and right near the end, and so I was coming pretty much top of my class, and then my sister was getting married at the end of that first year. And so I took a couple of weeks off so I could make her wedding dress and all the bridesmaids' dresses. And in that time, I didn't pass one class.
Right.
Now, I knew that that one class that I didn't pass, I had to resit. And that was fine, except it wasn't available until the next year,
Right.
at second semester, which means I couldn't have completed it by the end of the next year. I then would have had to have done the last section a year after that. Also, a lot of the class was about pattern making. Now, I'd been sewing since I was 7.
Yeah.
And I grew up making all my own clothes. When I was old enough to drive, I would sew like from the pub, and from when I worked at Woolworths, or Coles, the supermarket, I would, so 16 is when you start to drive, right? And I was already working.
Right.
So I would decide on a Saturday, I want to have a dress that looks like this. I would go down to the Lincraft, which was the sewing shop.
Yeah.
I would pick my fabric, I'd pick a pattern, I'd go home, I'd make it before lunch.
Yeah.
I would go to work, and then that night, because this is when I was 18, I'd put the dress on and go out dancing.
Yeah.
Right. And because I was a barmaid, right? So everybody else was drunk, so I didn't bother, because you can't catch up. So then I was the driver. I'd go dancing. Someone would buy me a can of Coke. I'd stay out all night, drive everyone home, and I would do that. I was so good at sewing that when I got to college to do sewing, the teachers, again, because it's quiet and I could just do the work.
Yeah.
They just let me do my own thing. So I was getting top marks, but learning nothing. The teachers taught me nothing.
No.
And so I discovered by the end of that year that not only did I need extra time to complete it because of one class, I wasn't learning anything that I didn't know, and I was exceptional at what I knew.
Yes.
And the teachers didn't push me to be better at what I didn't know.
No.
So I thought, you know what? It's really expensive to make clothes. Like, because you had to buy all the materials and everything. It's expensive. So I've gone, it's actually cheaper for me to go to work and earn money than it ever will be for me to complete this. Because when I complete my degree, my diploma, I'm not going to be able, I'm very aware, self-aware. I thought, I'm not going to be able to get a job anywhere.
No.
Because I haven't learned anything.
Right.
I just do what I already know. And I'm actually not very good at all. I'm just able to complete the course.
Right.
But that doesn't make me good at anything. So so I quit. My mum's to this day, she said, if I was to go back now, I would make the teachers work so hard for me. It'd be great because I'd learned so much, because I now understand the difference between doing it and getting high marks and learning something. And it's that whole failure equals feedback. If you don't push yourself to fail, you are not going to improve. So I learned a lot that way.
I agree with that, because just 20 years ago, I started a course in Shiatsu, Japanese massage.
Okay.
And it was a 3.5-year course. And through that course, we learnt the techniques for the different organs, where the lung meridians were, where this went. And we go into the training weekend, and we were told, next month, you'll be working on the liver meridian.
Okay.
And we went home and we got friends to come in, and we'd have a little chat with them to find out what their symptoms were. And, everything was liver related.
Right.
And then the month after that, when we're working on the lung meridian, everything was lung. We seem to find the lung coming out all the time. And I said to people, the end of 3.5 years when I graduated, when the first patient came in to me, that's when I started learning, because, we're not learning the lung meridian. Suddenly somebody came in and said, this is my story, and you've got to find it out from what they tell you. The fact that we were doing the lung meridian this month meant that suddenly everything became the lung meridian. It was only after we qualified that we started learning.
I had because as a sales trainer, right, I go networking. So I was a salesman for I've been a salesman since I was 16. I'm now 45, right? So we're looking at nearly 30 years, right? We were a sales trainer for a long time, but 9 years ago, I discovered business networking doesn't
Yes.
exist in hospitality, doesn't exist in retail.
Right.
So I discovered it by accident, right, 9 years ago, because those were my two areas of expertise of sales. And I was talking to a woman, same sort of story, who's a personal trainer. She said, you learn all the personal training stuff. She said, but you want to go straight from personal training, getting the certificate and technically knowing all that stuff, to working at a gym. Because when a woman comes in who's pregnant and says, okay, so what exercises can I do?
Yeah.
She said, technically, you know, but you don't want to be in charge of her.
That's right.
Like, not without some feedback from someone else who's been around pregnant women for a long time. She said, you don't want to give all the instruction out, like you want to get help from others. So I've just gone, oh, that's clever. So I see that in all sorts of jobs now, like accounting, law firms. Like you technically can go out by yourself. Yeah. It is highly not recommended. Because you want the collective information from everybody, you know.
So we'll move on, Misty. Now we're going from 21 to 30. Perhaps a couple of stories, 21 to 30, and the lessons that they taught you.
Okay. Moved to a small country town, so I moved away from home. Yeah. And moved into a small country town, different different sort of bar. You had to make them stay, so they had to drink, smoke, and eat at the bar, and I had to keep them there. Yeah. I learned this really great lesson. So there was a local that walked around. He was one of the local police, and he knew everything on the news. And a traveller came through. So the small town that I was at was called Hay, and it was halfway between Sydney and Adelaide. So it was 8 hours from each place. And so when people actually cross the bridge, it looks like just a petrol station, fuel up the car and keep going. But when people got stuck there at nighttime, because it's 8 hours away, right, they had to cross the bridge and discover there's a town inside. And it's a bit like Brigadoon. You ever remember the movie Brigadoon, right? Because I grew up with my nan, right? It's kind of like that, right? Across the bridge, and oh my God. And so I went to one of the pubs there, and this traveller came through, and the local police lad was wandering around, and he's only young, right? So he's about the same as me, and so he was chatting. Yeah. And he knew stuff on the news around town. He goes, wow, that guy knows a lot. And I said, yeah, he's really good at retaining knowledge. I said, not me. No. I said, I can't read an article in a newspaper, remember the first line after I've read it. Like I've read it like 20 times. I don't retain anything. I don't bother watching the news anymore. There's no point. I can't retain it. And he said to me, no, but you have something that's very different. He said, but you have something that's really important that not many people have. And I've gone, what's that? And he said, you have the ability to make people feel special. Right. And that has been a turning point in my whole life. Because as a barmaid, my mum used to, and I loved being a barmaid. Yeah. And the other reason I stopped, because at the age of 27, I was becoming the oldest one. Right. And when you're the oldest, they assume that it's your job that cleans up the vomit. Yeah. No, that was never my job, because the places I worked at, I was so good at keeping them there and taking their money that I didn't do the cleanup. So, this one thing I used to say to my mum, she'd say, but you're only a barmaid. I said, not only a barmaid, Mum, I'm like the best barmaid in the world. People come in with no money. They leave with even less. So don't blame me for it, because they had a wonderful time and they come back tomorrow to tell me about their day. So I'm like really good at what I do, because people they're relaxed. They have such a good time, right? So when this guy said to me, he said, you have the ability to make people feel special. That's it. You've just said it. Yeah. So that's really my main story. And then from there, after being a barmaid, so in that sort of 30 age, I went into sales, like furniture sales, and then went selling computers and things. And I thought they were vastly different. But what I learnt, it was exactly the same. Yeah. Hi, how are you going? What are you after? I mean, that's the line. Yeah. That's all it takes to get someone talking. You know, I'm only looking today. Okay, well, when you're not looking, I'm here. That's right. You know, and that's all it takes to get people moving. So really, I learned all my work stuff in the middle. That these lessons I've taken for the last 25 years. And so I was a barmaid up until I was 27. Right. And then I went into sales. So so hospitality sales to retail sales. And I thought it was really hard. Like I went to furniture and I was really quite nervous about that. Like I won the job because it was daytime stuff, but I was quite nervous about it. And everybody would come in, hi, how you going? Hi, how you going? And but I wouldn't actually serve them. I let everybody else do that. I wouldn't actually serve them, and because I thought it was so incredibly different to bar work. But what I learned over time was sales is sales. I mean, all you do, hi, how you going? What brings you in today? Like if it's in a bar, hi, how you going? What are you having to drink?
Yeah.
Hi, how are you going? What are you looking for? That's it.
Yeah.
You know, so I discovered over time that actually it's the same thing over and over. Doesn't really matter what industry you're in. It's going to be the same initial questions. Someone's come in for a particular purpose based on what's in that place that you're standing in. So, yeah, so that was my great learning between 20 and 30.
So now, Misty, we go from 30 to 40. I get the feeling that this is where you really broke out.
Yes. So from 30 to 40. All right. Always wanted to know, what's the secret sauce to selling? I mean, if I knew it, I would do it, right? I mean, it turns out this is anyone, right? But I would do it. I was prepared to put in the hard work. I mean, when I was working in furniture sales, I said to my boss, I said, hey, where would I find someone who's building a motel? Because I live in Canberra, so at the time I was living in the capital. So I live in Canberra and they're building motels everywhere and they all need beds, right? So the furniture could be quite specific. The hotel would decide on the design. So that may not be our store. But a bed is a bed, right? I mean, it's a bed base and it's a mattress. So in the end, that product is universal. It won't matter which store you get it from. So I need a hotel builder or owner, and I could sell the bed and mattresses to, right? The bed and base. And here's what she said to me. She said, when you find out, come tell me. I'd love to sell to that person too. And I've gone, wow. So in sales, we literally don't know anything, do we? And we just have to wait for the customer to come in.
That's it.
But then I was about 35. I started having kids. So I had 2 kids by the time I was 35. Had 2 boys. And then in my effort to teach sales, so I've always wanted to be a sales trainer. So along with selling, I would read all these sales books, right? So I had no one that could teach me. So I would learn it all myself. And I would test it out at whatever pub I was at or the furniture store. I'd get others that, hey, try this, see if this works. So I would run experiments. And anyhow, I also wanted to teach, like formally teach. I remember going to my very first sales seminar, happened by accident. But how it happened was I remember the very first sales seminar, it was 2002. And I was living in a small town I was living in a small town and I wanted to be a travel agent because I like traveling. I thought, well, how hard can it be? Turns out it's very hard. And so I went down to the local travel agent and said, can I work for free and learn how to do this? They sent me to Melbourne to learn how to book airplane tickets. And while I was there, they sent me to a seminar and this guy was there and he was talking to us about sales. And how it's less about the price and more about the service. And if you highlight the service, it doesn't matter how much it was. Now, I still remember most of his speech. I don't know who he was. I remember him being very tall, but I don't remember who it was. I don't know who it was. But I pretty much remember his whole entire speech and I believed in all of it. And what happened was I would go home and I'd say to my mum, oh my God, you wouldn't believe what I found out today. She said, I couldn't care less how much a pair of shoes cost, or who serves me, or how rude they are to me, as long as I get it at the cheapest possible price. And I was looking at it going, I don't believe that, because what he was teaching was it was just when the travel industry was trying to put in a service fee for the travel agents to book the accommodation and flights and all that. So you get paid a commission from all the hotels and all the travel places that the travel agent would, but they wanted a professional service fee. Let's say $150. I booked you a $20,000 holiday. I'm going to charge you $150 for my effort. So if anything happens and things get cancelled, I still get paid $150, right? And so that's what he was teaching us, how to talk about it so that would happen. And with what my mum was saying, I've gone, yeah, I don't believe that. I don't believe that you would pay the least amount of money and couldn't care less that the service was bad. I don't believe it. What happened was, what I've discovered over time was the guy was right. He always was right. He was just a good 10 plus years in front of his time.
Right.
That was all. So that would take us from 2002 to 2012. 2012, in my effort to, because I left not wanting to be a travel agent, I left wanting to be him. Oh, I want to travel the world and teach sales to everyone. I believe that everybody should be in charge of their own money. I believe everyone needs to have the knowledge on the possibility of selling, learning how to sell. And so I wanted to be him. So I would spend over the next 10 years trying to do seminars and teach people and do things while having my job. In my effort to do this, I couldn't quite work out how to do the whole workshop thing. So I thought it was something to do with, I don't know how to run a workshop. So I was Googling things and I come across in Australia here, the Coaching Institute, and it's a life coaching company, right? And so I signed up at a phenomenal fee to become a life coach because it had this really amazing workshop component. Had to do all the life coaching to get to that workshop component. Here's what I learned from the workshop component. While I really enjoyed the course and I liked it, I don't actually use any of the component that way. What I learnt though, on the side, probably because of my sales brain was working, whereas, you know, others learn the workshop and really see it. I could see that actually running a workshop is less about the workshop and what the training is inside it, and more about how bums on seats. And if you don't know anyone to ask, can you turn up to my workshop?
No.
Well, now you've got no bums on seats to start with.
That's it.
So that's what I'd learned. But it really came to my attention when, within that first year of starting the life coaching, one of the components we had to learn was networking.
Yeah.
I avoided that component, that topic for a while. But when I finally got to it and I've gone, I can't avoid it anymore because I can't move on, I opened it up and I read the component. And it told me what networking was. It told me, find the local Chamber of Commerce meeting, book yourself in, go to it. Here's a list of questions, pick someone and ask the questions. So I went with all the instructions. It's fantastic. I had like these instructions. So I went with a list of questions tucked under my arm, business cards. I went in, hi, how are you going? I'm Misty, I'm a sales trainer. So, you know, I've got a list of questions. Have you been out networking before? I talked to these two girls, finance girls. They said, no, we've just been sent out. I said, great, I've got a list of questions. I got it from a book. So I'll ask you the questions, I'll answer them back, and then I'll give you the questions and you go ask someone else, and I'll just do that. And so that was 9 years ago. What I discovered when, by the time I'd finished inside that event for about 2 hours, I've gone, oh my God, everybody is so interested in finding out what the other person does. I thought, if ever I was to find the owner of a hotel who's building a hotel, it'd be here. It'd be right there in that room at a business networking event. It'd be there.
Yeah.
Like telling people, I'm building a hotel. What are you doing? You know, like, I sell mattresses. What do you? So yeah, I thought, wow, if I was selling furniture now and I knew about coming to a networking event, sure, it's my own time. But if I get customers from it, and to learn to sell outside of work hours and just be able to go in and put the order in, oh my God. Yeah. Imagine how it could work. So it was from that moment on that I could see that networking, business networking, is like the secret to all sales. Yeah. So I spent the next year going to as many networking events as I could possibly find, big ones, small ones, really obscure, and just go to all the events, just follow the instructions, so to speak, make up my own, pay attention to what's happening, and pull apart the whole thing, deconstruct it and see what works best for networking and what doesn't. Right. And so from there, within 6 months, I got known as, hence my crown, for those who have ever found me on Facebook, wear my crown. That's where I got networking queen from. So then I started being called networking queen. Over time, networking queen or sales queen. But yeah, that's where I got the queen name from. Not by me. It was just given to me because I was out all the time. But then I'd run classes on it.
Yeah, I know in England, we've got particularly one or two ladies I know who carry the same title. But we've talked about that period in terms of your business, Misty. In terms of your life at home.
It's only been this. Yeah. No, I mean, there's other things. But I made it such a big part of my life. Yes, I've had children. I've got children. I've got 2 boys. I've got a husband. Yeah. You know, and still spend all the time with the boys and with Simon. And we've moved house many times. And yeah. But always in the background, I've always had this sales training component. This has become like my whole life. So after, what's it now, 2022? So 20 years later, I mean, Simon even now says, when he first met me 15 years ago, he'd go, this is amazing what you're doing. Over time, you know, as you don't bring in $1 million like everyone, when you don't bring in $1 million, it's like, yeah, okay, I'm kind of bored with this. And I'm like,
Right.
is this something I've been doing for so long? Like, I can't stop now. Like,
Yeah.
So it's become like a hobby. It's now a business, like I earn money from it, but it's also like a hobby and like your baby, like you don't want to give it up. This thing that you love so much and you put so much time and effort into. So it's taken up a huge portion of my time and life. And then I work out how to put everything else in at the same time. So the boys didn't go without. Simon hasn't gone without. We've moved places, but I haven't gone out without giving them time. I've had to work out how to construct. How do you construct your time around this thing that you want to do? And I've been in and out of jobs and still look after family and get the boys to school. And so it's sort of a matter of trying to. It's a juggling process, you know. It's it's sort of scheduling nightmares. How to make it all work.
If there was somebody listening to the program who is now, let's say, 20, 21, 22. What was the lesson that if you went back that you would tell yourself?
Okay. You're not going to give me a perspective or an angle, are you? No. All right. What's the main lesson that I've learned? You know what? You should do what you want to do. Don't give that up. Have a dream, have a plan. It's okay to have money as your plan. If you like it. You know what? Here's what I've learned, and it's probably actually in the last year and a half, so between 40 and 45, is you only need to learn one skill your whole life, and you can turn that one skill into that thing that you're interested in into whatever you want. You can earn money doing whatever you want. Today's world, you can earn money doing whatever you want. And if you only learn one thing. So my boys go to school. They don't like it most of the time. I have a few opinions of school, but ultimately school holds a lot of people and you have to learn to get along with others. So I think that's very important. As for what they learn, I'm not overly bothered, since I believe that you can, and I teach it, is that you can make money doing whatever you want. I think the new generation, you know, as long as they learn it. But I look at people, I mean, you and I know a guy named Lincoln Noel, right? So he's the maestro and plays piano, right? So if you look at Lincoln plays the piano and he's very Lucifer-esque for those who watch Netflix and see Lucifer. He plays the piano and sings. So my boys, I started watching Lucifer with the boys last year, and the youngest one, he's 10, and he said, I want to be like Lucifer. I want to dress nice. I want to play the piano and I want to sing. And so I said, well, why don't we get Lincoln to give you lessons? And it's like COVID's on, so let's do it. He's in London, you're in Australia. And we look at Lincoln and go, you know what? Let's have a look at this one skill of learning the piano, right? You go your whole life. Let's say you learn the skill of playing the piano. So what comes from that is you can teach people later on. You can sing at events. You get called up for events. Lincoln does online telegrams. You know, sends it out to whoever all over the world. You know, so that one skill. But then you could also learn to tune pianos because you've got an ear for it. Tune pianos, piano removals. I bought a piano. Here's the secret to learning the piano. Just get a piano into the house and put it right in front of you all, right? It cost like virtually nothing to get the piano, $300 to get it delivered. It took the guys less than 30 minutes. I have a nasty driveway like this and terrible stairs. And two guys had to park a removalist van halfway up the driveway. They had to get it out, push it up, get up the stairs, all this other stuff, right? $300. They do 10 pianos a day, 50 a week without fail. Like, it's like, wow, they're making 15 grand a week.
Well, not like, just that, though. Not just that, Misty. That means there's how many pianos out there?
How many pianos out there, right? Pianos are free because, you know, you can't, you know, nobody can afford to don't worry about buying one, just move something, because whoever brings it in, it's now got to be tuned. So then the next guy comes in, he charges $200 to tune it. He says, what, an hour? That's one skill. My eldest is 12. Oh, he's nearly 12, so he's 11. Last year he wanted to play, he's been wanting to play basketball for a while, but COVID hasn't allowed it. He finally got into a skills program. So they didn't have any teams in Canberra because they couldn't play, but they had some skills programs open. So he was learning by a woman who learnt to play basketball growing up, how to dribble a ball, change hands, and pass and catch, right? And a bit of shooting, but mostly it was dribbling, change hands, and pass it off, right? It costs for the 7 classes $100 for him to go 7 1-hour classes. I worked it out. I'm sitting there and I'm counting all the people, right? Here's a woman. I said to Jack, I said, I've done the maths, right? Here's a woman who learned basketball when she was young. She played basketball her whole growing up life. As a result of playing basketball, she learned how to referee it, so she knows everything about it. She had a few little league teams. She was in charge of the littlies. Now she teaches you how to dribble a ball and pass it. Here's how much she gets paid, right? So I added up all the people and the time it takes. $300 an hour to teach kids how to dribble a ball. That's it. Just because of one skill. So it turns out we don't need to know much. Karate is exactly the same. Learn the skill of karate. Later, you become a personal trainer to teach the next levels up how to precisely do your hits and punches and kicks and that, so that they're between $30 and $50 per personal training session. Right. Not counting actually get paid, because you can get a job in a karate dojo. But a personal training session, you can now charge that. But the secret is getting the customers. That's it. There's a bit of accounting. The secret is just getting known that you're the one that does it. That's it. Secret, here's what I've learned, is get known for that thing that you want to do. And then have everybody come to you to ask questions about it. Right. Whether you can help them or pass it to someone else, that's my key tip in life. Get known for that thing. And there's nothing you can do, no family you can't have, no lifestyle you can't have based off that. If I knew that at 20, wow. But I did, Ernie. I knew it. As a barmaid, I knew it. As a barmaid, I told everyone I was a barmaid. Come to the pub because I'm pouring drinks. So we actually know it. We just don't know that we know it. That's it. That's it. That's the tip.
Misty, is there a plan for the next 5 years?
Well, I've just moved to a new town.
Right.
No, my plan is to relax and enjoy it. I get to run my classes online. Simon works from home. He works with government. He works from home. We're buying a house. We decided to move entirely, kind of like the early settlers. We moved from Canberra, over $1 million to buy a house, to Chinchilla, 7,000 people, dead flat. Kids can ride a bike, lots of kids around. We still got Domino's, McDonald's. $250,000 to buy a house. Right. So we've decided to, not spend all our cash just to live in a house. Let's do something that's, better to live, and then go on holidays, travel around, do that. Get the kids can learn to meet new people. We all have to. So it's kind of to relax. Enjoy the work. Hang out with the kids. The kids now, we're on the street. And because it's flat, they're riding bikes. On the street, there's at least 13 children here. Right. So the boys don't want to do sports now, because I'll just go outside and play with the kids. We're going to get on our bikes and find a bush track, and off they go. So it's like old school growing up, like how we would have grown up, like how I grew up, how you would have grown up, before all the buildings were there. So really, it's just, let's just enjoy this space and not be haggard from trying to drive everywhere all at once, and so that's really the plan for the next 5. The boys will be at school, what are we looking at, 10 and 12, so they're at school for I don't know, I say they can quit at 16 if they have a job. If they don't have a job, they can get a job, right? So there's at least 8 years that they'll be home. If they haven't learned any functional skill, like if they haven't learned to do the laundry, or they still refuse to cook for me Simon every now and then do the dishes, well, then I'll kick them out. And they can do that on their own dime. Go to a job, pay your own rent, learn how to clean up your house or deal with whatever it takes want to come in,
And, I'm making an assumption, Misty. In that you mean it.
I mean it. I absolutely mean it. I've always said my boys will be self-funded by the time they're 14. From the age of 3, the boys, from Noah was 3, Jack was 4, they started saving up. They wanted a dog. So it took them 3 years. So you need to have $3,000. It took them 3 years to save up for their dog and finally got it. They know how to make money. It's funny. In the last 3 years, they've not made a cent. And here's their answer is like, well, we know how to do it now. So we don't have to do
lesson.
it. Valuable lesson.
Yeah.
But yeah, I suppose as kids get older, and I worry, I get concerned as a mum. Here's what I've discovered. As a mum, if you're in charge of girls, right? If you're a mum of girls, tend to say, okay, there's a vacuum cleaner, off you go. No, you work it out. And we kick them out of the nest and we teach them to be independent, the girls, because there's nothing you can't do. Boys, we tend to go, come here and I'll show you.
That's it.
And the boy walks around going, is that how you do it, right? Never actually vacuuming, by the way, because mum's showing all the time. And I'm like, oh, I think I'm making a mistake here somewhere.
I am the perfect example of that. Because with my first partner, I look back and yes, I'd come in from work and I'd get a cup of tea and I'd drink it and then I'd put it down at my feet. And then I'd get up and I'd walk through the kitchen to the toilet and I'd come back and then I'd do something and then I'd get up and I'd go somewhere else. Because my mother had always took my cup of tea away, and done it for me.
Oh yeah, the children actually believe that clothes magically just turn up clean in their drawers.
Yeah,
I've stopped sort of doing it, or maybe once a week, and they've gone, well, I can't go to school today. I've gone, why not? I said, I've got no clean socks.
Yeah.
Well, why didn't you tell me when they were running out? Why didn't you just go to the laundry basket and put it in the washing machine? I mean, I've showed you.
Yeah.
Showed you. Notice I've showed you a number of times, but I've not made them do it.
Right.
So it's like, wow, there's a huge difference. I tried this one though, Ernie. You know, kids are really cheap these days. I mean, back in our day, right? We would have like, you know, can you pay me to do the housework, right?
Right.
I've offered to pay the boys. I mean, you know how to earn money and pay the boys. They go, we don't want any money doing housework. That's great. Work for free. I'm loving that, right? But it turns out kids are so cheap. They don't want cash. They want media time.
Right.
So on the days where I'm working really well, I go, well, you have to earn it. Every task equals 30 minutes of media time. Right. And so one day I gave them everything that was needed to clean the bathroom. I said, and they don't necessarily get along, right? So, well, the little one doesn't get along with the big one, you know. So I gave them the stuff for the bathroom and I said, right, there's the ingredients to clean it. You've got a vacuum cleaner, you've got spray and wipe, you've got toilet cleaner, you've got toilet brush, right?
Yeah.
So there's the stuff. That's what you need. You guys make your bathroom sparkle. And when it's done, you get media. Do you know how long it takes to get two small children, two small boys who don't really, so they're about 9, 10, right? Two small boys who don't know anything about cleaning a bathroom, and give them all these things, right? Do you know how long it takes for them to turn an entire bathroom sparkling so that they can have media? No. And get along at the same time, by the way, because they had to decide who was doing which task. And less than 15 minutes, including taking everything off the counter, wiping it down, putting back what needed to go back, and wiping down the bathtub, which I never asked for. I'm like, that's amazing.
Well,
motivation though, right? You just got to.
I'm not sure. I'm sure it might have took me a bit longer. We're coming to the end. Can you tell people where or how they can contact you?
Yes. So I'm easily found on Facebook. I'm wearing a crown. So I'm Misty Henkel, Henkel, and Misty is like the Clint Eastwood movie, Play Misty for me. And I'm the only Misty Henkel in the world, apparently, and I wear a crown. So I'm pretty easy to find on Facebook. I have a website that comes off a Google business page, not so easy to find if you don't live nearby to me. So so I really don't have a website, just got the Facebook page. And if you go into Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, you go in, you tell me how you heard of me. Hi, can we link in? Can we become friends? Just write that in the messages. I can friend you and then come back and chat to you about the chat. Like that's the easiest way. I find it's just the easiest way.
Great. Misty, it's been a pleasure, as always. The energy is booming out of the top of that crown. Thank you for the information and for the advice, and also for the networking tip you gave me. You're welcome. Definitely recommend people to get onto Facebook, Misty Henkel, ask her what she's doing and what you can talk about today, and I'm sure you'll find out. Thanks a lot, Misty.
Thank
Bye
you.
then.
Bye.